Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today, as this special episode is going to focus on the energies of the Sagittarius full moon total lunar eclipse coming up on May 26th, 2021. We're going to talk about the energies associated with this particular lunar eclipse, as well as some overall energy cycles and themes that are showing up for us as we enter eclipse season here in 2021. We have 4 eclipses this year compared to 6 eclipses in 2020. And we are moving through some very dynamic energies with the Sagittarius Total Lunar Eclipse, followed by the Gemini New Moon Solar Eclipse that will be coming up in June, specifically on June 10th. So as we enter eclipse season, energies tend to pick up and move faster, especially in the mutable signs, which are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Now, these eclipses are happening in Sagittarius and Gemini, and these are the parts of your chart that are going to be very active over the next number of weeks. Now, the eclipse energy comes in, and it's essentially a burst of movement. It tends to be about quick changes, things happening in a way that can be perhaps surprising at the human level, but a part of your higher self and your spiritual self is ready. You're saying yes, you're open, you've actually understood at a higher level of your being the changes that are coming through. And these eclipse energies help us stay on a true path. They show us what we really want, what we really need, what we're really feeling is important right now. Eclipses tend to accelerate what we're already focused on and intending. And eclipses also are about a type of timeline shift, which is that as you accelerate in your growth, you can feel the energies picking up that support where you're going next. And it's a bit like standing in line. And if you're waiting in line for your turn, or you're waiting for the line to get moving, eclipses will move it right along. Things will happen in a way that can get you onto that new timeline or that new direction, especially when you've been very clear and in alignment with what you want. So I'm doing this podcast episode on this topic a few weeks early to help you open up to these changes, to what you're ready for, to what calls to you, and to understand that what we're experiencing here as we move into eclipse season is not only changes, but there are parts of your life experience that are complete. And a big signature of this May 26th Sagittarius Total Lunar Eclipse is supporting you in progress and in what you're ready to release and let go of. So the basics of this eclipse is that it's happening at 5 degrees of Sagittarius. So you want to locate that in your natal chart. 5 degrees of Sagittarius is actually a point in our charts that has had a reoccurring eclipse on a regular cycle. So this is a part of your experience in this lifetime that you're used to change already. So the last time we had a degree here was at actually 3 degrees of Sagittarius back in May 2013. Then we had an eclipse here May 2002, May 1994, and May 1975. And of course, it can always take a minute or two to think back at what was happening in your life. The most important date would be May 2002, because that is when the eclipse was also working with the South Node in Sagittarius, and that is what's happening right now. So this total lunar eclipse is conjunct the South Node in Sagittarius, which is about this letting go, completions, graduations, what is no longer correct for you, what is no longer connected to your belief systems or your truth systems. And these are the domains of Sagittarius. It's what we have believed about ourselves in the world, what has formed our belief systems, what has created a lens that we see the world through. And the Sagittarius energies can help us understand diversity, different perspectives, different cultures. We get out into the world, we expand who we are, we expand what we've been taught, and we begin to explore the wider world of knowledge that exists in the world that we weren't aware of. And that Sagittarius energy helps us to keep growing. And it does so from a place of inspiration, because Sagittarius is a fire sign. And this is the energy of having experiences, going on adventures, seeking and looking at what you can dive into next. There is a motivation here to keep growing, to keep expanding. Sagittarius wants to know more, wants to understand, wants to see things from different angles or different perspectives. Now, this is if you're dealing with the energy of Sagittarius that's open, because the other part of Sagittarius energy, when it's closed or when it is basically locked into a belief system, is that we often have the energy of judgment. We often can feel into our opinions and even over-identify with opinions. We can be very fixated on what's right and what's wrong, and you should do this and you shouldn't do that. And so these are important things to understand, because you might see some parts of yourself, such as your own inner dialogue with yourself, where you've been operating with certain shoulds or expectations or judgments on yourself. And this would be the lunar eclipse to intentionally set yourself free if you feel like you've been held captive by these energies, or if there's something that has restrained you. Because that Sagittarius energy, when it's closed down, can also feel like you have to walk in line. You have to do what you were told, or you have to do what is right, what is just. This is the only way. And that's part of the Sagittarius lower expressions, is that you're essentially told what to believe, what to do, what's right, what's wrong. Other people's opinions have formed you or have overly shaped you. They have influenced your own sense of self. And the Sagittarius energy can be a very, we could say, out of touch with the fact that there's multiple experiences in the world. There's multiple ways that people go about their lives, go about their own experiences that are different, and that doesn't make them wrong. So we're looking at where we have told ourselves what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, where we're holding judgment of ourselves, that self-judgment, which is essentially the message of you're either good or bad, or you're right or wrong. And when there are openings here, and I'm seeing when these barriers open, these unconscious mental barriers that we have about ourselves, about other people, about the world at large, when they start to dissolve or collapse, there are openings that set us free. And I feel like this total lunar eclipse is opening us up in a part of our lives where we have maybe felt afraid of doing the wrong thing, or we've been holding ourselves in a place of judgment, whether that's through some guilt or some shame or a sense of self that we're truly wanting to improve. It's basically that energy of judgment shuts down growth, shuts down our confidence. It shuts down our light and part of our own energy field that we're meant to rise up into. Now, this eclipse in Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter has now just entered Pisces. And for the eclipse, Jupiter will be at 1 degree of Pisces, and it is squaring the moon in Sagittarius and the sun at 5 degrees of Gemini. So we have what's called a T-square, where there is tension and perhaps a sense of wanting to move fast. There's an energy here where this Jupiter in Pisces is further emphasizing a letting go and a release of what is no longer true for you. And I feel like it's something that we have absorbed unconsciously, we have carried through many lifetimes, because there is even the energy here of persecution, where we have been essentially trapped in outdated teachings around what's good and what's bad. And this can be religious teachings, ideologies, philosophies, cultural understandings, anything that helps us understand the world is up for review. And it's asking you, is this your truth right now? What are you claiming in your truth system that supports what you believe now in your life? And I actually feel like this energy is releasing lifetimes of energies of judgment, of persecution. Even it feels like it's related to the Dark Ages, when clearly the energy was very tight and restrictive, and we absorbed different energies at that time that we have been unraveling and releasing. And I feel like part of what we're looking at here is to be very honest with ourselves around where we've held ourselves to certain standards, or we've required ourselves to walk a certain path because it meant we were good. So this could even go into what you were taught when you were younger, especially around any types of religious teachings, spiritual teachings, belief systems that are connected to your sense of self. Because I feel like there's like these hints or these threads of energy where we all know what judgment is, and we all know what that feels like at some level of our being. But I feel like it goes back through many lifetimes of being told and taught, and also that only certain individuals had access to information. The Sagittarius energy can be the ivory tower, can be sitting on your high horse, can be the one who proclaims to know it all, you've seen it all, you've done it all, and no one else can get in the room because your spiritual ego is so big. And this is what has the potential to open up and be released, where you've been too hard on yourself or too critical, where you've been, again, holding yourself captive in some manner. And now you can intentionally rework it and establish judgment-free energies in your life, where you understand, oh, I was learning something. Oh, I was seeing this part of myself. Or, oh, wow, look at what my ego has been revealing to me. Look at what I've been understanding through this part of my life. If you stay open to the learning, then you're going to rework the energy while also claiming your power. And with this Jupiter in Pisces, it does ask us to dig in even more to what it means to be self-forgiving, self-compassionate, and self-accepting. Where we have our flaws, we have our phases where maybe we're not so proud of ourselves, or we go through certain parts of our journey that we look back on and we think, I would totally done that differently now. But what you're accepting is who you were, who you've been, and how do you want to change it going forward? Because these eclipses are all about change, all about understanding what you're learning, how you're growing, but also the mindfulness that comes from that. Now, we have planets in Gemini during this eclipse. We have that Sun in Gemini conjunct the North Node, which is where we're learning to understand more of who we are. But this is at a personal level, and it's the words and information you tell yourself. And I feel like there is a new story that's coming together. It's rewriting something with a higher consciousness. Then we also have Venus and Mercury in Gemini squaring Neptune at nearly 23 degrees of Pisces, once again releasing and letting go. Because there's strong Neptune energy working with the personal planets, and this is about how we're shifting at a deeper level, at a more everyday level of our being. there's something shifting in you at a daily level that is perhaps showing you what you don't longer want in your life, what you're no longer interested in, what no longer calls to you, where you're feeling restless, where you're ready for change, where you're ready for something new. And this is an eclipse that's going to clear out where you've been limiting yourself unconsciously, but also opening up more of what you're ready to call in. So I feel like there is multiple parts of us that are energetically complete. And this can definitely relate to the energies of last decade, 2010 to 2020 or so even, we'll call it 11 years or so, because there's energy here that hasn't been alive for a number of years. Now, I mentioned that this eclipse was last here in 2013. And that was an eclipse at 3 degrees of Sag. It was a lunar eclipse that was about growth because that eclipse was conjunct the North Node. So what has shifted for you since 2013 that has shown you, I feel it as 19 lifetimes or just a variety of experiences you've had since that time? And perhaps look at how these experiences, or even how your self-identity has been connected to any of the lower expressions of Sagittarius. Where has your energy been also connected to the lower expressions of Pisces and the lower expressions of Gemini? This is all the energy that's shifting and moving during this eclipse. These are the energies that we are clearing out, but more importantly, we're learning from them and understanding from a higher perspective. So for example, where have you been holding an energy of judgment, either towards others or towards yourself? Where have you been holding the energies of expectations towards others or towards yourself? Where have you been telling yourself a story that has perhaps been limiting of your whole truth? Where have you been withholding any type of self-compassion or self-understanding? And it feels like when these understandings come to mind, when you see it, when you sense it, when you say, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe this is how I've been thinking about something, or this is what I was putting on other people. Because we can do that. We can have expectations of others. We can also idealize others, which is part of this Pisces energy, where we're putting them on a pedestal, or we're assuming they have something that we don't, or we're going into these places that aren't fully accurate. They're not quite 100% real, but they're wonderful escapism, or they're wonderful places to visit. What we're clearing out is actually some deeper soul imprints related to these energies that I'm feeling helped us navigate a certain type of reality, that helped us deal with certain situations. Perhaps it was where you wanted to be accepted, or you wanted to be understood. So there's certain things you did that maybe were false. It's kind of like when we don't speak our truth, or we don't know our authentic self. But at this time on the planet, the energies are really pure. And I feel like what we've been doing is rising up in our authentic selves so that we can stand strong in that and let everything else fall away. So there's a falling away here that looks like petals falling off of a flower where it has fully bloomed, it's had its day in the sun, it's come to fruition and blossomed, and now that energy falls away. That's what this eclipse has. It has a falling away of the false self, falling away of the unconscious patterns and programmings that we have absorbed that we no longer know are true for us. And one of the things I'm hearing that's really important too about the eclipse in May and the eclipse in June is that part of what is falling away is related to expired self-definitions that we don't even want to take forward. that we don't even want to keep giving energy towards, or that we don't want to perpetuate. And it's really interesting because there can be parts of ourselves that we just don't see, that are the blind spots, or that we're not aware of, that other people notice, but maybe we don't see in ourselves. I feel like there's something here that is loosening. It's like this loosening and releasing of, I don't even want that anymore, and I didn't even know I was carrying it. I didn't know I had that baggage. I didn't know I was seeing people in that way, or that I had expectations or idealizations of people in that manner. And what this is opening up as well is that it's helping us get clear and solid in what we do want to create and manifest as the world continues to change deeply. And I do feel this connected to the new earth consciousness, which is going to come in strongly, especially towards the end of this year when we have an eclipse in November in Taurus. And then we're going to have a series of Taurus eclipses and Scorpio eclipses as well. But the Taurus energy is important because it's where the North Node is, which is what we're creating, developing, and building. So we're releasing ideologies, philosophies, programming, thought systems, truth systems, belief systems that we don't want to take forward. And what we're opening up is energy for these new experiences of our lives and these new experiences of ourselves. However, what's really fascinating is that for the Sagittarius lunar eclipse, we have 3 planets in Gemini plus the North Node, but they are all receiving energetic influence from planets in Pisces, which means that the mind is not really in control. It's part of an illusion. The mind is not where we're supposed to figure things out. I feel like what's activating here is more of our full energy system. So I mentioned thought system, truth system, belief systems. Think of a system. Think of how a system works. Any system, a system in your computer, a system in your car. Think of how it operates. If you think of it in a vehicle, you put in the key, you start the ignition, the engine gets going, and the system is working. It's in this locked behavior. It's in an interconnected programming or interconnected pattern that has just been perhaps on autopilot. It's just been operating. It's just how you've lived your life. It's what you've thought about the world. It's just what it is. But all of these systems are malleable. They can change and shift. All of these systems can be changed dramatically. And sometimes we experience this through the car breaking or something not working within the system, and then it has to be recalibrated, reconfigured. What we're doing here is looking at what needs to go because it's no longer connected to your truth and your authentic self, and it's been limiting you. Almost like you're trying to reach further outside of a comfort zone, but there's something that has to be released first in order to have room for that growth. And I think that what we're seeing can be parts of ourselves that are surprising, that we didn't know, we didn't realize, where you could realize, wow, I didn't see that I'm maybe judgmental in a way I didn't understand before. Or maybe I'm really idealizing people and I'm not seeing the truth of who they are. Or perhaps you have a lot of expectations, or you're working with the themes of being let down, disappointment, where you have been discouraged. All of this can be reworked, and during eclipse season, we're going to have these themes because we have strong Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces energies for these eclipses, which is about letting go. And we say that word a lot, that phrase a lot, letting go. What that means is that there's going to be things you don't know. And that's part of the South Node in Sagittarius. You don't know. You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know what someone's going to do or what's going to show up on your front door. You don't know how something is going to transpire. But what we're looking for is a sense of safety, confidence, and typically that we're going to make it through no matter what. So there's something where as these shifts happen, as change happens, you could also be looking at how you deal with change, what comes up for you. Is it about some really big fears? It could even be fears that never come to fruition. There could be things that you're thinking about that probably are not going to happen. And with the strong Gemini energy, you do have to watch that, where your mind is going, what you're conjuring up, or all the different rabbit holes that the mind goes down. Because the strong Pisces energy says surrender and just travel through what you don't know. Because there's things that we can't figure out mentally. We don't have all the answers right when we ask a question. There has to be a void in order for the new energy to come in. So I guess how I'm seeing this is that the energies are falling away based on what you have understood about yourself, your own patterns or routines, what maybe systems you've been locked into. Those have the potential to open up, to not be as restricted or tight, and for those petals to fall away. And then you have an opening of energy. There's a void. And what do you do in that space? Because it's where you can have a lot of anxiety. It's where a lot of worry can come in. It's where you can be overly fixated on the past or really fixated on the future. These voids of energy can take us out of the present. And what we're doing now is establishing a truer foundation that no matter what happens, you're going to be able to figure it out, make a solid choice. You're going to know what's true for you. You're going to know what's best for you. And we're learning how to feel safe in the unknown, how to feel secure when changes are happening and unfolding. I'm seeing this energy as a very beautiful, pure root chakra, sacral chakra, and solar plexus that are very bright, sparkly, clear, effervescent. And then the upper chakras, crown chakra, third eye chakra, and especially the throat chakra, are all being cleansed. They're all being reworked and elevated in consciousness. Because I'm seeing this energy as, it feels like top heavy, where it's the top of our energy systems that are shifting, evolving, and growing, but our base energies are quite stable. I mean, I'm feeling this energy as being very clear because of the work you've done, because of what you have realized or what you are working on. And part of that is when we go into that root chakra energy of safety and security, of feeling confident in your sense of self and being here on the planet, there's an energy that's come through that's a lot stronger than it's been previously. And so it's a bit like, even if you feel that the weather is intense around those top chakras, it feels like the tree that's strong enough to bend in the wind, and that there is a lot that's coming up and out. And I'm getting that image too, and this is gross, of pulling stuff out of a drain where it's just been stuck there and it's been heavy and dark and you didn't know it was there, and it's coming out and being pulled out of the energy field. In fact, this could be a visual that you do where there's things that are pulled out of your energy system that are connected to these lower expressions of Sagittarius energy. And it's interesting because it feels like this could be any lifetime where you were a spiritual elder, or where you were playing God to others, or you were giving information, you were guiding, you were mentoring, and it can have a very pure intention. But then when there's a sense of self that comes in and that over-identifies with a certain role, that's where the spiritual ego comes in. So there's this release of that excessive spiritual ego, or that sense of knowing everything or having all the answers or understanding how every single thing works, that is all falling away. And so we could see in the world some falls from grace. We could see some big truths come out. We could see this energy come through where maybe there is an expose, or whatever has been exaggerated is going to be revealed. So this is where anything that isn't true is going to fall away. And I feel it as a universal truth where the energy is connected to the universal vibrations of justice, of what's fair, of even karmic reckoning, because it could be too that some people are embarking on some, we'll call it karmic reckoning, which is not a punishment. It's essentially the balancing of energies. It's the consequences of what has been put out and then what comes back around. And a karma is essentially a boomerang. And it's a boomerang of the energies that we created and then what comes back around to us. And so this can be joyful and wonderful. It can be about manifesting where perhaps you were generous or you gave a lot to people or you shared a lot, and then that comes around to support you. And then conversely, if the energy that is put out is not so good, if it has different intentions, if it's been harmful and punishing, or if there has been a lot of actions that are out of balance, that will also come around as well. So there is karmic reckoning with this Sagittarius lunar eclipse, and that is how the energy is balanced and how it comes back into alignment with next choices and new steps. It's a very big releasing eclipse where we're meant to change. Change is happening, ready or not. Growth is happening. Shifts are happening. Evolution is happening. And I do feel like this is preparing us for truer grounding in the new earth consciousness. Now, what do I mean by that? And perhaps you've heard that phrase, the new earth, mentioned, or you've read it around. What this is that we are creating a higher frequency of existence where we hold ourselves to higher standards of what it means to be human, what it means to be the truth of who you are in your full authentic self. And this new earth consciousness is different for every single person because we're all on our own timeline. We're all learning and growing at our own rate of speed, at our own desire level. And what we're creating is a new experience of our lives on this planet. And we're letting go of so much that no longer resonates. And this is really true for many who no longer resonate with the 3D energies or the matrix energies, who no longer want to be involved in certain things that at first or for a while really were interesting, or you really gravitated towards them. This is a whole shift in what it means to live on this planet. What are our values? What matters to you in terms of living a good life? What are your priorities? What do you want to experience while you're here on the planet? Because time goes fast and we don't have forever. We don't have forever to do everything we want. And I feel like part of this eclipse is clearing away so that we do have the ability to focus on what we really want. So you could feel some deep shifts in your energy field. You could feel some shifts in your priorities and in your values. You could say, oh, that used to be really important to me and now I don't care. Now it's not a priority. Now it doesn't matter to me. And then you could have new priorities that come in that focus you, that give you a sense of this is what my life is about, or this is the path I want to follow next. And so this Sagittarius lunar eclipse is going to be very revealing of what does call to you next, because by the Gemini solar eclipse on June 10th, there are new ways to move forward, new ideas, new understandings of what's possible, as well as a higher understanding of how you can trust and incorporate all of your energy. This means your intuition. This means what's in your heart. This means your body consciousness. This energy is moving us out of our over-reliance on the mind, on our thoughts, and allowing us to open up more into trusting ourselves, trusting all of our energies, which you can do in very simple ways. When your mind is feeling heavy, when you're overthinking something or there's a lot happening internally, your body is saying maybe go for a walk or go to the gym or get some movement going here. Get back into your body. Get back into the other parts of your energy. Perhaps it's saying that it's time to listen to what your intuition is saying, what messages are coming through that you've either shut down or ignored or you didn't give much attention to. What is your intuition saying? Perhaps there's something where your heart is expressing what it wants to feel, what it needs, what feels good, opening up to the heart's messages. And this is true also for all of our 7 chakras. So what we're doing is not putting all of our attention onto the mind, onto what we have assumed, onto what we have accepted. This is where we're really switching it up and saying, okay, if I operate with all of my energy, what would I do? If I knew I would be safe and supported no matter what. And by the way, this can be one of your new belief systems where you're just saying, I am supported no matter what I choose, no matter what I do. I am safe. I am supported. I will figure it out. I will have good things show up and develop no matter what I do, no matter where I go. I will always be loved. I will always have options and manifestations because what you're calling in is more of your own power and you are grounding that into your truth systems where what you create is what you experience. What you believe is what you experience. What you think is what you experience. And we're shifting that up so that now you can have more of what you really want when you're energetically in that vibration. So I hope this has given you some really good things to think about because eclipse season is going to bring in the changes and the redirections. It's going to help set you on a new timeline or a new sense of this is what I'm moving towards. These are my priorities now. This is what I value now. This is what I want in my life now. And I'm ready. And I feel like that's part of where the energy rises up to meet us is when you're really declaring what you're ready for and you're not attached to how. You're not attached to all the details or all the particulars. You're not overly focused on every possible question or every possible piece of the fine print. This is an opening. This is where it's opening up to knowing you're supported no matter what direction is calling to you. But it's not just your mind. It's not just the mind that is calling to you. It's more of your energy. And again, this is a theme coming up in the June Gemini solar eclipse because of how the planets in Gemini are being squared by that Neptune and Pisces. So I will have a separate episode for you on the June 10th Gemini solar eclipse. But I hope this has given you some good insights into what is shifting and changing for you for the May 26th Sagittarius lunar eclipse. And those of you who are in my 2021 Soul Growth Astrology program, you want to log back in and go through the full eclipse webinar where I guide you through more of the themes and changes, and you can see perhaps more of the patterns that have been emerging for you in this part of your chart. So ready or not, change is happening. It's time. We're right on time. There's a lot that we're going to be understanding, and it's going to contribute to even more wisdom that you will carry forward in your next steps. So as always, thank you so much for joining me. I will be back here every Wednesday and Monday for another podcast episode. Be sure and check out my YouTube channel where I post videos, including chart videos, and I'll be having the chart video released for this lunar eclipse shortly. In the meantime, I wish you a beautiful day ahead, and as always, deeply appreciate your time, energy, and presence in this podcast. You can find out more about me over at mollymccord.online, and there are also links below this podcast episode for more information as well. I will see you back here really soon.